the Walford legends, whose chemistry is simply off the charts, have had multiple romantic encounters thus far since crossing paths for the first time ever last year. A one-night stand at the Albert over Christmas, while unaware of each other's identities, set the scene deliciously for Cindy to discover at grandson Jimmy's christening that her latest fling with the man who had a role to play in the death of her son Stephen, Aaron Sidwell. You'd have thought such a discovery would ultimately have put a pin in any potential romance for the pair, but, after the initial bout of conflict, the two decided to put their differences in the past and join forces in order to get rid of scheming Jasmine Fisher, Indiana Donaldson Holness, who has proven a thorn in their sides for different reasons. But even when united with a common goal, the pair still disagreed on the right way to deal with Jasmine, which inevitably led to more disagreements. Max and Cindy eventually slept together once more, much to the upset of Linda Carter, Kelly Bright, who has been catching feelings for Lothario Max since his comeback. And next week, he and Cindy are thrown together once more. And things take a shocking turn. The pair return home from a nursery mixer for grandson Jimmy, when they find themselves in a devastating ordeal. Concerned for Ravi Gulati's Aaron Thiara, mental health, Priya Nandrahart, Sophie Conlevy, suggest they leave Walford together, in the hopes of getting him the help he needs. She takes a car from the car lot and makes her way to the hospital, but just as Ravi begins to question her, Nugget, Jahaim Rasool Chowdhury, has a seizure. Priya takes her eyes off the road and loses control, with the car veering into Max and Cindy's. Max swoops into action, getting Jimmy out of the car safely, followed by a shaken Cindy. The former flames share a moment, and when at the hospital they grow closer. Will Cindy prove to be Max's mysterious bride on New Year's Day? It's safe to say that they're well suited to one another, and they seemingly can't stay away from each other. So will sparks fly once more? The rain hammered down over Walford like it had something personal against the square that night. The streetlights flickered in the wet glare, reflecting off puddles that carried the echoes of shouting, running footsteps, and the distant sound of a siren that was already too late to matter. Inside the dimly lit chaos of the Queen Vic's back room, everything had changed. No one would agree on the exact moment things turned violent. Some said it started with a look. Others insisted it was a word, sharp, careless, and badly timed. But what everyone did agree on was that by the time it ended, nothing in the room was the same again. Cindy Beale stood near the broken table, her hand trembling slightly as she pressed a cloth to a shallow cut along her forearm. Her breathing was uneven, more from shock than pain. She had seen her fair share of trouble in Walford, more than most people survived, let alone thrived through, but this felt different. This felt personal in a way that made her stomach tighten. Across the room, Max Branning leaned against the wall, jaw clenched, shirt damp from rain and adrenaline. His eyes flicked between Cindy and the shattered remains of the argument that had just torn through the place like a storm. Max had always been a man of bad decisions wrapped in confident charm. Cindy had always been a woman who knew how to survive bad men. That alone should have kept them apart. And yet, here they were, alone in the aftermath. Earlier that evening, things had started almost normal. Almost. Cindy had been laughing at something Max said. Something reckless and mildly inappropriate as usual. There was a strange ease between them lately, a rhythm neither of them had admitted to noticing. It wasn't trust. Not yet. But it was familiarity. Dangerous familiarity. Max had been back in Walford long enough for people to remember why they never fully trusted him in the first place. Cindy, meanwhile, had been rebuilding her life piece by piece, careful and calculated, like someone reconstructing a house after fire damage. They should have been careful with each other. They weren't. The argument that followed wasn't planned. It rarely is in EastEnders. It came from something small. An accusation, a misunderstanding, a mention of someone's name who shouldn't have been in the room. Voices rose. Pride clashed. Old wounds reopened faster than either of them could close them. Then someone barged in who shouldn't have. And everything exploded. Now silence pressed against the walls of the back room like a weight. Cindy finally broke it. "You going to stand there all night?" she asked, her voice quieter than before, stripped of its earlier fire. Max pushed himself off the wall. "You all right?" Cindy let out a short laugh that had no humor in it. "Is that your version of concern, Max?" He didn't answer immediately. That was his pattern: deflect, delay, then decide what version of the truth was safest. Instead he stepped closer. "You're bleeding," he said. "It's nothing. Doesn't look like nothing." Cindy met his eyes for the first time since the chaos ended. There was something unsettling in how steady he looked now. Like the violence outside had reset something inside him. "You've seen worse," she said. "I've caused worse," Max replied quietly. That honesty landed heavier than either of them expected. For a moment neither spoke. Outside, sirens faded. The square slowly returned to its uneasy rhythm, as if Walford itself had decided to pretend nothing had happened. But inside the room something had shifted. Cindy lowered the cloth slightly. "Why did you come back here tonight?" Max hesitated. There were 100 versions of the answer. Most of them were lies he had used before: business, family, unfinished problems. But none of them felt right now. "I didn't think you'd handle that lot on your own," he said eventually. Cindy raised an eyebrow. "I was doing fine until they arrived." "That's not what it looked like." "That's because you turned up halfway through acting like a hero." Max almost smiled at that. "Almost. I wasn't acting like a hero." "Then what were you doing?" He looked at her properly then. Not the surface version of her he had known for years, the schemer, the survivor, the woman who always had 3 exits planned, but something else underneath it. Something shaken loose. "I don't know," he admitted. That, more than anything else, between them wasn't new. It had been building quietly for weeks, in stolen conversations, accidental touches, and moments where neither of them stepped away when they should have. But violence had a way of stripping away the nonsense. It left only what remained underneath. And what remained now was proximity. Dangerous, confusing proximity. Cindy sat down slowly on the edge of the broken table. Max stayed standing, watching her as if waiting for her to either collapse or explode again. "You shouldn't have gotten involved," she said finally. "You would have been on your own. I've been on my own before. That doesn't mean you should have to be." That line hung in the air longer than either of them expected. Cindy studied him carefully now. "Since when do you care who's on their own?" Max let out a low breath. "Since tonight, apparently." Something about that answer changed the temperature in the room. Not dramatically, not obviously, but enough. Cindy looked away first. "That incident," she said carefully, "could have gone a lot worse." "It did go worse," Max replied. She glanced back at him. "Not for you," he clarified. "For the other guy." Cindy didn't respond immediately. The memory was still too fresh, too sharp around the edges. The moment when everything had turned, when shouting became impact, when control slipped through fingers too quickly to recover it. "I didn't ask for that," she said quietly. "I know." A pause. Then Cindy added softer, "But I didn't stop it either." Max finally moved closer, stopping just beside her. "You didn't have time." "That's not really the point." "No," he agreed. "It isn't." They sat in silence again, but it was different now. Less hostile. More reflective. Like two people trying to understand what they had just stepped through without fully recognizing it. Cindy's voice dropped. "People are going to talk. They always do. This time will be different." Max gave her a look. "Because of me?" "Because of us," she corrected. That word, us, landed awkwardly between them. Neither corrected it. Outside, Walford carried on pretending it was just another night. Inside, something far more complicated was forming. Max leaned against the table beside her. Closer now. Not touching, but close enough that the space between them felt intentional rather than accidental. "You could have walked away from me a long time ago," he said. Cindy gave a faint, tired smile. "So could you." "Yeah," he admitted. "Neither of us are great at walking away." That earned a quiet, almost reluctant laugh from her. For the first time since the incident, the tension eased, not disappeared, but softened into something else. Something unspoken but unmistakably present. Hours later, when the room was finally cleared and the chaos had been pushed back into silence, Cindy stood by the doorway. Max was behind her. "You going to be all right?" he asked. She turned slightly. "Are you?" A pause. Then he nodded. "Yeah, I think so." Cindy studied him one last time. The version of Max Branning she had known before this night didn't quite fit anymore. Something had shifted. Something sharper. Something more honest, whether either of them liked it or not. Don't make me regret tonight, she said. Max met her gaze. Same goes for you. There was no promise, no declaration, nothing neat enough to be comforting, just understanding. Cindy stepped out into the damp Walford air. Max watched her go, not following, not stopping her, but also not turning away. And for the first time, neither of them pretended that what was forming between them was simple. In Walford, simplicity never survived long anyway. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to EastEnders Spoilers Official.